For me, being able to show them that I could take care of business and handle, anything that I was assigned, you know what I mean? I put in work, and I put in work well. I'm a very strategic person through that's basic military training, you know what I mean? And I was able to, I did all my recon, I did all my intel, followed these people, watched the studies they had, they studied their routines, and then was able to determine from there when and where, how I was going to make my move, you know what I mean? And I did, man. I put in a few hits, you know what I'm saying? And they liked it, you know what I mean? It was always like either broad daylight or right on the open, man, you know what I mean? So he liked that, he's like, hey, this fool got hard, man, and then when we go training, because we would go train up in the mountains, he would watch me in action as I, was utilizing my weapons, man, and, I was a sharpshooter, and I was also good with my obstacles and all that, because we trained regular military and police training, you know what I mean? And we trained with police and military, you know what I'm saying? So, they had the obstacles. You go to an abandoned house and you got, enemy in there and this and that, and then you got different, excuse me, sorry about that, but then you got other, you had sharpshooting. We had target practice from distant range target, and I was efficient at 75, 150, and 300 meters too. And they liked that. They liked the way I could move with a weapon, man. You know what I mean? And so, from there, I kind of got put on his detail.
Did he ever personally ask you to do a favor for him?
Oh, yeah. It was just one, man. Well, there was two, actually, but I only did one. There was a school teacher. I guess he was dating the girl, man. And I don't know if she had broke up with him or what the deal was, but he wanted us to smoke the broad in front of her class, at the school, in daylight, you know what I mean? And we had some knives that we had to use. He wanted us to do it with knives, so we did. And we went in, and it just so happened that day that we went to go get her, she didn't come to work that day, you know what I mean? And so just by the grace of God, man, she was able to avoid that time. From my understanding, they got her later on. And both the personal ones that he wanted me to do, they were both chicks, man. This dude had a tendency to date these broads. And then whenever they would break up with them, he'd feel some kind of way about them. And he'd send somebody out to go whack them, you know what I mean? Which is kind of, if you think about it, man, I would never do that to any of my ex-old ladies. But if you don't go do what they tell you to go do, then guess who's next? You know what I'm saying? So it was just a matter of do damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what I mean? No, he had asked me to do a couple of personal favors, and me just putting the effort in and going out and attempting to do them was enough for him to understand that, hey, man, this fool, you got me. You know what I mean? You got my back. You know what I mean?
Can you explain his security detail? How many men does he roam around with, and what are they armored with? Was his vehicle that he drives, was it armored and it had bulletproof windows and whatnot? What was that like?
See, you got to remember, we're talking back in the 90s, right? And yeah, they did have bulletproof cars. David had one. You know, he had a Mercedes-Benz that was bulletproof windows, bulletproof doors. It would spill oil. You had a button you could push in, it would spill oil out, and then you had another button you could push in, and smoke would come out, like James Bond. You know what I mean? And it was a trip, dude, to see the car, man. But they all had armored vehicles, okay? But one thing about Ramon is he's a very smart dude, man. And it's always the wheel that squeaks the loudest is the one that gets the most attention, you know what I'm saying? So he didn't like to squeak at all. So he never really would floss when we were out. When we were in Mexico City, he was driving around in a Volkswagen. You know what I mean? When we were in Guadalajara, he was riding around in a pickup truck. You know what I'm saying? So he never liked to stick out, bro. He never liked to floss. He never liked to showboat. Because when you do that, too many people pay attention and it draws attention to you. You know what I mean? So when we were out of Tijuana, he would never be, he would never try to stick out in any more than any average citizen. You know what I'm saying? So when we went out in cars, but we would drive like 5 minutes apart, and we would meet up someplace, you know. But when we were in Tijuana, oh, they loved the high sign in, man. They'd ride around in their town cars, and there'd be like 15 cars around them, all Suburbans and Jeeps, Suburbans and vans, and we'd all be loaded to the teeth with AK, automatic weapons, sidearms, and grenades, you know what I mean? In Tijuana, yeah, he'd floss. They both would floss. But outside of Tijuana, no, they try to keep as low profile as possible,
Now, I know one point in time that Arellano Felix's and El Chapo's cartel actually went to war with each other in the city of Tijuana. Can you tell me what was that like for you, and how were you involved in that?
Which one are you referring to? Which shootout are you referring to?
No, like how was it that you caught wind of this whole war, and how did you start getting involved in it?
They were at war when I got there. I got there in '93, and they were already at war. And that had started prior to me getting there. What had happened in 1992, there was a meeting set up in Puerto Vallarta at a nightclub, and they were supposed to sit down, and this was a direct order from Mayo Zambada. Mayo Zambada at that time, he was the head of all the cartels, you know what I mean? Just like back in the day, Felix Gallardo was, you know what I mean? And he was he was the guy that, brought the peace, brought the people to the table, everybody discussed their issues, and we worked out detail and worked out, trades and all kinds of stuff. And Miles had told us that, I told the Arellanos they had to sit down with Chapo and come to peace. Well, Chapo being Chapo, he had said, fuck them dudes, man, and he had sent a crew in there to go take everybody out. And when they went in, they came in spraying, man. They shot up the whole discotheque, man, and they never got to Ramon. And David, my compadre, and he baptized my daughter, and his guys, they were able to get Ramon to the bathroom, and they shoved him out a window. And then some dude that was coming into the bathroom, David blasted him with a 38 Super, took his AK, and then went back and started spraying at them. They got scared, you know what I mean? They took off running. And that's what started the whole big battle, man, you know what I mean, between Chapo. I mean, it was already going, but it kind of like escalated from there. As a matter of fact, one of the cases that I had was in Boyle Heights, and them dudes were some of the trigger men that went into that Christine's, you know what I mean? And I took them out,
How was it that you got word? Where were they located? How did you get that?
Well, they were doing, because you got to remember, man, back then, the Arellanos were coming up in power. At one time, they held the highest power in Mexico. They had all the government officials paid off. They had all the police paid off, and that's where you gain your strength. That's where you gain your power. You know what I mean? And so they got intel stating that 3 of the guys that were at the Christine's nightclub that night that were shooters were located in L.A. and that he had wanted us to go over there and to take them out, man. So we went up there, we followed them, we studied them, we watched their routine, and once again we made our move, man, and we took them all out.
During this war over there in Tijuana, did you lose any friends or fellow people from the San Diego area due to this war?
Oh, yeah. I lost a lot of friends, man. We lost quite a few homies, man, from Logan, you know, that were sent out to take care of business, man. They never made it back, you know what I mean? They ended up catching the underhand, man, and the others caught the upper hand, you know, and they never made it back, you know.
Can you elaborate on one of those situations? One that sticks out in your mind?
The homie Smurf and a couple other dudes were sent down to Sinaloa to take care of some business. And when they had made a turn down this road, I guess they had gotten word beforehand that we were coming, and so they had the road set up. They were waiting for them, and they were able to go in, and they trapped the homies, and the homies tried to make a break for it, man. They ran right through their roadblock, and there was a chase that ensued, and they ended up catching them on one of the Via Rápidas, man. They caught them on the Via Rápida, which is the highway over here, you know. And they cut them off, stopped them, and they went up and just sprayed them all, you know.
How was the plot created to take out the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman? How was the whole thing started and planned out? I know that you guys actually made a mistake and actually took out a Cardinal instead. You know, how did that whole situation play out, and how were you involved?
I wasn't present that day. I was in L.A. I was looking for Güero Palmas because we were looking for Güero Palmas was in L.A. at that time, and they had sent us up to kid him. But when David came back, they ran it all down to me firsthand, and they were all set up in the parking lot, man. They had a couple vehicles out there with the dudes all ready to go, and somebody over the radio had said, "Ahí viene, ahí viene." So the boys got down. They crept up to the vehicle that was supposedly the same kind of, it was a Grand Marquis, white Grand Marquis, man, and they seen the dude walking with a crowd around him, so they're thinking, hey, wow, you know what I mean, there's Chapo right there, man. And you know, somebody said, go over the radio. From my understanding, I later heard from Kitty Paez, who was, he's a upper echelon in the cartel. We got to be cellies afterwards, and he was telling me, man, that Chapo was there, bro. He was there. But he didn't get in that car. He got in another car. And that so when they seen we were told it was a Grand Marquis, the white one. So when the word said go, they just ran up on the car and just started spraying it, man. And then they realized that it was the wrong dude. They had a private jet waiting for them, man. So they got in the cars. They drove over to the landing strip where the private jets were. They boarded the jet, and they got the hell out of there, man. And a couple dudes that didn't know where they were supposed to go ended up getting stranded right there in Guadalajara, so they ended up getting hotel rooms. And they got busted, man. You know what I mean? And then later on, when Benjamin went to go see the president of Mexico, at that time it was Cardenas, you know what I mean? He went and talked to him, and he said, well, look, man, in order to get this heat off, you guys are going to have to give somebody up. So what they did was they ended up sacrificing two of the homies, man. My homeboy Spanky from Logan 30, and rest in peace. And the homeboy Puma from Logan, man, who's he's getting ready to be he served his time in Mexico, and he's getting ready to be extradited to the U.S.
And how did they take that? Did they get sacrificed willingly and accepted it, or was there some type of betrayal to an extent?
They were told that hey, you know, don't trip. We got lawyers for you. Your family's gonna be taken care of, and they did, man. You know, I personally had went and delivered money to Puma's mom and his sister. You know what I mean? And, you know, they were shooting money their way, and they were taking care of the family, and they were taking care of the lawyers and all. And, yeah, they went in willingly, man. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, who wants to go to prison willingly? But they did, you know what I mean? They went in willingly, you know.
And how did that affect Tijuana? How did that affect the streets? Did the heat come down on you guys like crazy?
Oh, yeah, big time, man. Everybody had to go underground. Until that deal was made with the president of Mexico, everybody was underground, you know what I mean? And I came to this side, you know what I mean? And when I came over here, I lasted about 4 months, and then I got busted, but I got busted for a violation. And matter of fact, at that time, one of agents that was investigating my case, because I had already had people dropping my name to the law, man, because, you know, they were already telling on me, man, and I got busted on a violation, and I was in Corcoran. And what happened was, when you drive up to the shoe, you got to go to committee. And I'm in the committee room. And the warden's there, associate warden, the captains, and everybody's there, the social case workers and everybody. And the warden's sitting at the opposite end of the table. I'm on one end of the table, he's at the other end, and he's going through my file. And the idiot goes, he goes, hey man, is all this stuff really true? And I'm, you know, I'm already a carnal. I mean, you know, I was going to be a carnal, but I was carrying myself as a carnal. And I go, what are you talking about, you know? And he goes, all this stuff in your file. And I go, what stuff are you talking about, man? You know what I mean? And he goes, that you're an enforcer for the Ariel Felix cartel? And I says, what? I says, I don't know what you're talking about, man. You know what I mean? I don't know where you're getting your information. I said, that's in my file? And he goes, yeah, it's just right here. I said, well, look, because, you know, under a certain law, we get to have a copy of everything that's in your file. All you got to do is request it, and they have to give you a copy of it. So I said, I want a copy of that, man. And he goes, have you filed your 128, which is a request form for a copy of your file? And I go, no, man. I go, but I'll fill one out right now. So the caseworker hands me a 128, and I sign it, and he goes, I'll make sure you have a copy of this by this evening. And he does, man. He sends me a copy of it, and in the copy of what he had wrote me was an investigation report stating that they were warning CDC and California law that I was a suspected member of the Arellano Felix cartel, an enforcer, that I had military background and training, and that I had that I was known to be a suspect in numerous murders. You know what I mean? And como que pendejo que me lo mandó. You know what I mean? I didn't even know at that time, so that kind of put me on that they were checking me out. You know what I mean? So when I got out, I showed David that copy, and he was like, hey, bro, from here on, man, you can't go to the other side no more unless I tell you, you know what I mean? You don't got to lay low, keep a low profile. So I did, you know what I mean?
You know, I think there's one individual who you did a lot of damage to. Being the fact that I think, from what I heard, is that you murdered her parents on 2 different occasions. However, that lady was present.
Yeah. You know, Tony, that one right there kind of touches me, because I don't know how much you know about it, but she was just a child at the time, man, and that hit me real hard, bro. It hit me real hard. I love kids, man. And I would never harm a child, man. You know what I mean? And just for the fact that she was present, and I didn't even know she was present at the second one, because that was her dad, and the little girl was crying, and I picked her up, and I went and laid her down next to her grandmother, and I was told to tie them all up, but I didn't even tie her up. I just wrapped the rope around her hands, and I told her to hold the ends, but I told her, be real quiet, don't say nothing, because I know if she had kept on making noise like she was making, they were going to end up smoking everybody in the house, because they got no problem killing kids, bro. They don't got no problem killing anybody. And I told her, just be real quiet, just hold this, and don't let it go until we leave, okay? And but it hit me pretty hard, bro, and it still does to this day. I still have bad dreams about that kind of stuff, bro. You know what I mean? I'm not proud of everything that I did to him. You know what I mean? And it's not something, I don't want the public to mistake me as trying to glorify that life, bro. I just want them to know that I lived it, I experienced it, but I'm not proud of it, and I hold a lot of remorse in my heart, bro, and it's something that I still live with to this day. You know, you can even ask my old lady, man. You know, there's times that I'll have a breakdown, bro, and and she'll hold me in her arms, and I just hold a lot, I hold a lot of guilt for it, bro, you know what I mean? And she'll tell me, baby, you did this over with, you know what I mean? Now you're trying to live a different life, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to live a different life now, you know what I mean? And So I don't really like to get into details of everything. I'll go into details of some of them that I don't care about, even though I you know, like I said, I didn't enjoy doing what I did. I was just doing what I was told to do, bro. And I had made a commitment. I had obligated myself, and I just followed through with the obligations that I was committed to. You know what I mean? But other than that, you know what I mean? There's nothing that was good about it. Towards the end, I would get down on my knees before I went to go do a job. And I would ask God, Lord, if it's not their day to go, please, man, get them out of there. Make sure, you know, that they're safe, man. And then I would go and forgive me for what I'm about to do, man. And I would go do what I did, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a great life, man. It was a job. I didn't anticipate having to do the things that I was going to do. I thought I was just going to go down there and sell drugs and, you know, make some money, man, and have a lot of fun. But it ended up being a whole lot more than that, dude. And I'm not real proud of it, man. You know what I mean?
No, that is 100% true. I hope that the audience notices that we are not trying to glorify or promote this type of lifestyle whatsoever. You know, the message is, you know, not to follow in your footsteps. You know, a lot of people lose their lives to this senseless war, to these senseless gangs, and it's pointless, you know, and especially in Tijuana, I know a lot of people lost their lives in vicious manners. And I heard of crazy things like discomposing bodies and barrels and people being discomposed and chopped up and whatnot. Did you actually ever witness anything like that? Like people people used to call him el pozolero or stew maker.
Yeah.
Did you ever come across an individual like that?
Yeah, I know what they're talking about. In fact, they found this idiot kept these barrels at his front yard, man. They were blue barrels, and they were still filled with acid. And, you know, whenever somebody had to disappear, they'd take them to him, and they would disappear. But what this idiot was doing is he was keeping, for some odd reason, whether it was fascination or he was some kind of freak or what, he was keeping their shoes. So when they went through a barn that he had in the back, they found over 300 pairs of shoes back there, you know. And those were just bodies that he had, through DNA, they were able to establish that it were bodies that had disappeared.
When you guys carried out a mission, what did you guys do with the bodies?
Depending on what they wanted, you know, some of them, like you said, some of them had to get chopped up, you know what I mean? Some of them had to, you know, be thrown out on the street to send a message. Some of them had, you know, it depended on what they had requested, you know.